This is the Athlete's Blueprint podcast here with Mark Hewlett from Soul Padel. Let's just jump straight into it. So, hope you're having a good day so far.
Yeah.
Excited for the media event?
Certainly am, yeah. And thanks for having me on the podcast. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. No, thank you for inviting us to the first kind of pop-up here in Stockport outside Decathlon store. So that's really, really good. So, just jumping right in. Talk to me a little bit about your interest in the sport of paddle.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And obviously the sport's so new in the UK, but I've been playing for quite a while. Every now and again we go over to Portugal and there are courts near where we used to stay. So as a family we used to really enjoy playing, but I always assumed it was a game outside to be played in the sunshine whilst you're on holiday. So never really thought much about it because I was working and I was busy and I had lots to do. But around about a year ago, I started to look seriously at paddle because I'd seen it emerge in the UK. There were lots of news stories and it had started to become a sport that was growing, but still very much at a nascent stage. So I spent 6 months basically researching it before we founded Soul Padel.
Amazing. And what was it that you enjoyed about playing the game whilst you were back in Portugal?
Yeah, there were lots of things. It's so social. You're always playing as a pair, so it's a game that I guess is more enjoyable than some of the singular activities that I've been used to in the past. I do a lot of running, a lot of cycling, a lot of weight training, but that's all on your own predominantly.
Yeah.
Paddle's great. You're always with other people, and it's not just the game, it's the pre-game, it's the after-game. You get a lot of time to spend with people. I think some of the playability of the sport is really interesting. A smaller court, it's surrounded by glass and a fence, so the ball's in play a lot, so it's active. You're always on the move. Slightly different rules to other racket sports, which makes it interesting. I like the tactical part of the game. It's less power. It's a lot easier to pick up. I think it's a lot more accessible than a lot of other racket sports. So yeah, I could go on. There's so many things I like about it. I could talk about it all day.
Absolutely. And I think what's really great is kind of the essence of what you're creating with Soul Padel. I mean, do you want to speak a little bit about the community aspect and talk about, how that sort of come about and become sort of a foundation of what you're
It has, yeah. I think that deep down, what we want to have is this soul element of the sport is really important. We know that the essence and the DNA of paddle goes all the way back to its Latino origins. And so when we founded Soul Padel, we wanted to bring that to life. This sport for me is not necessarily a kind of affluent, rich person's game. It's for everyone to play. So we want to embed Soul Padel within the communities within which we operate. And that's really, really important to us. So we welcome everybody. We exclude nobody. And therefore what we want to do is build this community. So from kids all the way through to seniors, like my parents are in their 70s and they play paddle.
Amazing.
But I want kids to play, I want everyone to be involved. It's a sport that is so appealing, everybody should have a chance to experience it.
Absolutely. And just talking on that sort of community aspect and how people kind of interact with the game, what do you think it is about paddle that newcomers enjoy so much?
I think there are so many things. One of the things that's really interesting is what people say about the serve. In tennis, it's one of the most technically difficult things to master, and you need a lot of coaching. Whereas this is an underarm serve. Cross court, yeah, same as tennis, but beginners love that because they can get the game started, they can get rallies going. And so the ball is going backwards and forwards. And okay, you might not be technically brilliant, but you can get into the game really quickly. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier, is the social side of the game. People like to meet other people. I think we've gone through a very difficult period globally, but in the UK where people have become more socially isolated. A lot of sport was closed down, a lot of clubs were closed down. And I think what they found in paddle is this kind of warm, welcoming, social, communal side to a sport that they've really enjoyed. In lockdown, a lot of people did a lot of exercise on their own.
Sure,
and I think what they're looking for now is other people to meet with, to play a game, to make connections. And then those connections go on to foster more sport in other areas. It's not just about paddle, it's about let's meet up for something else. But if paddle can be that kind of foundation that gets people together, then I think it'd make me very happy, but I think it'd make the sport very happy.
Absolutely, and obviously this has been up and running for a little while now. What are some of the transformative sort of things that people have said about how the game or Soul Padel has made people feel so far?
Yeah, I think it's transformative in a number of ways. If you look at the barriers to entry for a sport like padel, they're actually quite low. So fitness-wise, you don't need to be super fit to play the game. Playing it will get you fitter.
Yeah.
But to start out, it's not absolutely knackering to play the game. You can play with a base level of fitness. From a skill point of view, you can hit the ball, and you can hit the ball backwards and forwards over the net. So you don't need to be coached initially to a high level to get into the game. And then fundamentally for me is keeping the barriers on cost as low as possible. Yeah. That will make this sport transformative. If we start to put the cost of playing higher and higher, we'll see people alienated and discouraged from playing. So those three elements of accessibility on fitness, on technical skill ability and cost are a transformative part of padel, without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely, and I think it speaks to what you're saying there. It's wanting to create a welcome space, low barrier to entry, suitable for children right the way to people that are slightly older or elderly.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess where I'm heading with this next is some people will often confuse padel with pickleball. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
For me, padel is fundamentally different from pickleball. It's a sport. It has lots of different technical aspects to it that pickleball doesn't have. Yeah. And I just think it's more diverse and more dynamic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I haven't seen a whole heap of pickleball, but I can say just from my knowledge and seeing here and being here and watching the players today that it's exciting. I love that you bounce off the wall, like the overnet, I don't know. It just feels, I think, because also it's in the cage as well, it feels a lot more.
That's it. And I think the variability of the different shots that come into the game in padel don't exist in pickleball. I'm not being disparaging about pickleball, by the way.
No.
It's obviously very popular. But I'm very biased and I love padel.
Of course. And, be it that we're here and, we're on the topic of padel, you have obviously got some of your ambassadors that you've hand sort of cherry picked. Yeah. Who for you are the ones that we should keep a close eye on?
Well, I'm going to say this, aren't I, because they're part of our team. But I'll start with Victoria. So Victoria Nicholas, for me, is a real powerhouse in the game for lots of reasons. From a personality point of view, she's obviously a very, very good player. But I think she represents an awful lot more than that. As a female player who's come into the game at a relatively late age, and she won't like me for saying this, but she is 30. Yeah. She's got a professional career as well. So she's a doctor. She works extraordinarily hard, and she's managed to fit in a professional career in padel as well, which is unbelievable and to be respected. She's a really nice person. She's really kind of respectful of the other players on the circuit, and she's very generous with her time. So she represents a lot for me. And I've got 3 daughters, and all 3 of them have been involved in sport all the way through, from being very young to even now. And I think it's important we have female role models, and I think Victoria can really be the padel role model for a lot of young girls who want to get into this sport.
Yeah, and I've sort of briefly spoken to Victoria, obviously off camera, and the way she comes across, the way that she just sort of conducts herself. And, I don't know, there's just like an instant warmth and likability.
Definitely.
And, I think it runs true also with Theo as well. I mean,
Theo's a great lad. Yeah. He's a younger bloke. He's from Middlesbrough, so he's not part of the Southeast set that has got into padel. His dad runs a padel centre up there in Middlesbrough, so his heart and soul is in the game, and he's been playing from a very young age. So for us to have someone like Theo, we're a Northern company, we're based in Lancashire, and again, you look for young boys to get into padel. Who have they got to aspire to? You need people like Theo. I think for us, as a Soul Padel ambassador, we couldn't have picked a better guy, quite frankly.
And when you are kind of, you've got the wish list open and you're looking at your ambassadors and things like that, what are the values that you look for in people?
Yeah, that's a really important point, and I think you go back to our own values and you look at what we are all about. It's got to be welcoming, friendly, warm, genuine, authentic people that we bring into the Soul Padel community. So if you represent our brand, we want you to be that type of person. What we don't want is kind of selfish, egotistical, kind of aggressive sporting personalities that you do see around sports.
Of course.
I think paddle's a bit different. What I've seen on the professional circuit is genuine, warm and friendly personalities getting on with each other. And for us, it's about giving back to the community. So as part of being in our family, it's giving back. So we want you to represent us at our Friends and Family Day and our open days, and coming down and doing a bit of coaching with our members of our clubs. That's what being a Soul Padel ambassador is all about.
When it comes to the size of the sport and how lucrative and how much it's grown in popularity, where do you think padel can go?
It has the potential to be a huge sport. It has the potential to be a mass participation sport, not just in this country, but in any country that it enters, basically. And the reasons I say that are what I was describing earlier. Its accessibility and the barriers to entry are relatively low. But, and it's a big but, it will only do that if it engages people at a young age and it becomes this kind of mass participation activity. And what I see at the moment is that there aren't as many kids getting into padel as there should be. And therefore we need to enhance the coaching in this country. We need to have more qualified coaches at more clubs. We can't keep bringing people in from Spain. It's not sustainable. But if we don't generate this kind of interest at a young age, we won't be feeding the pipeline of professional players that go on to represent Great Britain ultimately and go on the professional circuit. In general, and this statistic stands up in any sport anywhere, it takes 20,000 kids actively playing the game to produce one world-class professional. Now, at the moment, we haven't got that in the UK.
Yeah.
But part of our agenda at Soul Padel is to get as many kids into the game as possible. So we need to have this in schools. We need to have it in educational facilities like universities. And we need to build the awareness of why should you play this game and not football, rugby, cricket, netball, hockey, and all the other sports that we play in this country. And of course, tennis.
Yeah.
Why play padel over tennis? So the international circuit for padel is growing. We've seen huge investment coming in from the Qatari Sports Investment Fund. We've seen Red Bull come in and sponsor the sport. And we're now seeing this growth internationally of a sport that not that long ago was only played by a few countries. It's now in 90 countries globally.
Wow.
And it will soon become an Olympic sport. So it's got every possible opportunity to be successful. But we've got to get things right with juniors and grassroots to build this mass participation.
So in terms of the audiences that padel attracts, I know you've just spoken about it being huge in Europe, with having interest sort of around Europe and up and down the country in the UK.
Yeah.
In terms of audiences, when padel's at its best, how many people are we talking that come and watch a game?
Well, if you look on the international circuit, you'll see full stadiums, literally. Courts have been built right in the middle of football stadiums. And
serious?
Yeah. I mean, this sport has been represented at some of the big tennis tournaments on the circuit. It's been showcased as a kind of event. But when it is on its international circuit and you have got the very best players in the world, people want to watch this game. It's so good to watch. The rallies are longer, the shots are more dynamic. It is not a serve volley or an ace after ace type of sport. It's always played in doubles. So you've got this dynamism between two couples against two, fighting against each other to win a point. And you can see rallies that go on 30, 40, 50 shots.
Yeah.
So it's a great sport to watch. But not everybody knows that and not everybody's seen that. And we've seen some events in this country where, spectator numbers are starting to grow. But internationally, when this game puts on a show, people want to watch.
100%. And is there any sort of celebrity endorsements, or is there anyone that's sort of,
there's
like a David Beckham or someone like that who's taken an interest?
I think people like David Beckham, as soon as they touch anything, it gets media attention. But if you look at where padel has gone beyond its own echo chamber.
Yeah.
A lot of football clubs have started to build paddle courts. So professional
Seriously?
football clubs. Yeah, so Jurgen Klopp is big. He loves paddle. He plays a lot. However, I think clubs have started to recognise that having paddle courts allows for players to get into kind of a zone 2 cardio movement without stressing their bodies too much. But it also builds camaraderie, and teamwork. So other sports have started to introduce paddle as part of their, if you want to call it, curriculum. So professional football, Formula One, I've even seen cricket now starting to adopt paddle. So you're seeing this kind of symbiosis building between one sport and another. And I think that's the beauty of the game, is that it's easy to pick up, it's easy to play. So other sports people are starting to enjoy it. In terms of endorsements, I mean, the list just keeps growing. Rafa Nadal, Andy Murray, Serena Williams, a lot of the Formula One guys. People are starting to put these courts in their back gardens and invite their friends around to play. So yeah, it's growing, definitely growing.
No, I'm so pleased to hear that. And I think I can see why. Just being in and around, speaking to you, the passion, playing 1 or 2 games myself, I can feel it and I can see it. So I want to speak a little bit about this media day and what it was like to set this all up. How has that been?
Yeah, look, the journey of Soul Padel has been one of kind of rapid progression. We founded the company on the 6th of December 2023. So we've gone from that to where we are today, 6 months. And here we are on a paddle court outside a Decathlon store in Stockport. Now, I never would have thought we'd have that kind of rapid progress. But the energy and the dynamism that we've put into the growth of this organisation is one that is boundless and endless. We want to grow this company, we want to be successful. And I think if you've got a very clear purpose and a very clear vision and your mission is strong, you will grow. And you will attract people who want to come with you and join you on the journey. So Decathlon are an amazing partner for us.
Yeah.
And they believe what we believe. They want to make sport accessible for everybody. And if you go into one of their stores, you can buy anything for any sport you want to do, and it's at an affordable price.
Yeah.
So paddle perhaps has an image problem in the UK. Perhaps it's seen as a rich person's game, and it's been put, clubs and courts have been put into quite affluent parts of the UK.
Yeah.
And therefore you've got people playing the game who can afford to play the game from a time and money perspective. So when we were thinking about how to enter the market and where do we want to enter the market, we've decided to go in places and communities that are more accessible. And so partnering with Decathlon and being right next to their store here in Stockport, which I believe is the busiest store in the UK, makes perfect sense to us. So we want to go from 2, let's call them meanwhile courts rather than pop-up courts, because what we've built here are tournament standard courts.
Yeah.
These courts are as good as what you'll find anywhere else. But we've put them here for the summer so that we can work with Decathlon to attract people to Stockport, which is an up-and-coming part of Greater Manchester, to play paddle.
Yeah.
Not necessarily going to more affluent parts of Cheshire. Let's keep the sport within the communities that we've decided to locate in.
And it speaks to the mission that you have about inclusivity.
Exactly.
And, if you want children from all ages, all over the, different backgrounds or whatever to get involved, then you want to make it. I get it. And
yeah, exactly.
What do you think makes Soul Padel different to other paddle operators?
Look, I think there's some brilliant operators out there, and we are by no means the first to market. Some people have been in this now a lot longer than we have, 4, 5, 6 years. And there have been some pioneering operators. Chris Warren down in Chiswick at Rocks Lane has been in the market a long time. So we've been around and we've spoken to people like Chris, like Nigel up in Middlesbrough, and we've taken our time to look at what they're doing, how they're successful, and what we can learn from them. And there are other operators that have been around 2 or 3 years that have cornered a market and really built a membership and a community. And, I take my hat off to them because they're doing a fantastic job and I like what they do. The reason we're here is to grow at a grassroots and to become a mass participation sport. Padel must engage communities. So we're working with, I think of last count, 12 local authorities. to build paddle clubs inside or close to existing facilities that have large membership bases but are local authority run and operated facilities. And the reason we're doing that is we want to make paddle accessible.
Yeah.
We can't just keep saying that, we have to deliver that. So partnering with Decathlon, partnering with local authorities, partnering with educational institutions, partnering with universities and higher education, and also partnering with private landlords and developers that believe what we believe. So what makes us different is we want to become a community operator. We want to be embedded within communities. We want to be accessible. We want to be affordable. We want to be seen as friendly, warm, welcoming. That doesn't necessarily give us a huge point of difference, but once we grow, it will. And we will make connections and our clubs will play against each other and we'll have leagues and tournaments and juniors through to seniors. So we have a grand ambition, but we are really now just at the foundational stage of Soul Padel's journey. You know, we've already attracted investment. We've got a board of directors that is really galvanized behind our mission. And we've got a partner here with Decathlon that believes what we believe.
Yeah.
So all of the ingredients of what we believe will be successful are there. It's now down to us as a team and as a business to bring that to life.
That's right. It's a recipe for success. So no, I'm happy to hear that. And you know, I was going to ask a little bit more about the location. So, you know, obviously we're here in Stockport. You're based in the north. You sort of touched on it a minute ago, but for people that are listening that might be based near where I'm from, like down south, will we see a Soul Padel down south?
Yes, you will. Ultimately, you will. Our next club will open on Monday in Glasgow. And so, again, in partnership with Decathlon, Glasgow is a very, very early market. You know, there are a few courts around Glasgow. There are 3 million people that live in the metropolitan catchment area for Glasgow and about 5 courts. So it is pioneering territory for us. Now, there are blessings and curses of going into new markets like that. The blessing is you've got first mover advantage, you can establish a community and grow. The curse is no one knows what paddle is.
Yeah.
So I was up there last week and I was stood outside the Decathlon store canvassing opinions and talking to their clients. 1 in 50 people knew what paddle was. So we've got a job to do.
Yeah.
Different in the southeast.
Yeah.
The awareness is greater. The player base, you know, is a lot higher. However, we are in talks with 6 locations around London. So you will see Soul Padel in your area, definitely.
Amazing, that's good. Yeah, because I mean, I love the northeast and kind of coming up northwest, but yeah, just for the commute. I don't know if I could convince my friends and like family to say like, oh, do you want to come play paddle?
Well,
we've got to drive.
It's interesting.
But yeah,
you know, having worked in London for the last 3 years, not a lot of people get up north. But what we want is northern people to enjoy what southern people get to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on technology now. So, you know, sport always evolves, and in football, VAR and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Match High and how that sort of works with Soul Padel? Yeah, so
booking platforms, of which there are many, are essential to clubs like Soul Padel. And I think choosing your partner carefully has been a difficult task for us because we're new to this. So this kind of trial that we've set up is to see how this booking platform compares to others. What I'm keen to do is create loyalty and really foster that sense of community. So we want to own the player base. We want to make sure that we can market to our own players and really build that community amongst a group of people that are loyal to Soul Padel. Match Eye are helping us with that.
Yeah.
There are others, of course, but what I think we've got at the moment is promiscuity amongst players and choice of clubs. There's different price brackets, there's different times of day where you can pay different prices. What we've got to have is some kind of consistency in the clubs that we operate.
Yeah.
So how do we do that ourselves? How do we direct people to Soul Padel rather than directing people to a booking platform that then feeds clubs?
Yeah.
So it's your brand, you should own that brand, and your clients and your players and your community should associate with, first and foremost, Soul Padel. How they book to play at Soul Padel is irrespective and almost irrelevant, or it should be. But at the moment, what we've got in the UK is think booking platform first, and then think club. I want to put that on its head.
Got ya. And in terms of technology within Padel itself as the game, is there anything, of that nature? So, like in tennis, you have kind of the line in, line out, and those types of things. Do those things exist in the world of Padel?
I think that, Hawkeye, VAR, all that kind of stuff. Look, that kind of technology might exist at the very upper echelons of the game. Right now, here where we are in Stockport, one of the things we are going to introduce is live streaming of your game from our club. So, you can take all kinds of things from that, from how does a coach assess a player's development, and use the playback technology to take them through different aspects of their game, trying to improve their serve, their lob, whatever. We also can use it for bloopers and complete cock-ups and create, laughable, comic, kind of comedic kind of takeouts, which people love. That's great.
You've got to humanise it.
Yeah, of course you have. And I think it's great for people to share with their mates. Let's look at how well I played today, and I gave you a good thrashing, and we're going to watch it together over a drink and a pizza, whatever.
That's it.
That kind of technology is really good for us.
Lovely. And sort of on a personal level, how hard has this been for you? Or like, what's been like been like the moment where you felt like, oh my God, it's actually happening? Like, can you remember that moment?
It's real. Yeah, I can remember that moment. I was stood here just as the framework for the courts was going up, and I thought, this is now real. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think, entrepreneurialism and founding business isn't for everyone. It's really hard. And it's hard not on you, it's also hard on your family.
Yeah.
And we decided to get into this with the intention of growing it as quickly as we could, but knowing that was going to be hard work. I think it's really important to surround yourself with amazing people who can support you. And, I'm very, very lucky and I'm blessed to have an amazing family that are invested in this. They're here today with me to make today a success. My board of directors are also very, very supportive. Our investors are unbelievably patient, but also really keen to help us and see this grow. But on a very personal level, this means everything to me. Soul Padel, for me and for Paul, it's just in our bones. It's what we think about when we go to bed. It's what we dream about. It's what, as soon as we wake up, it's everything for us. And we will do everything we possibly can to make this successful. To do that, we have to make Soul Padel a great place for people to spend time.
Absolutely.
And that is everything that we've done here, from these 2 courts that are for the summer and our little clubhouse. Everything that we've done has our heart and soul in it. And so, if that makes us successful, great. If it doesn't, we'll have given it our best shot. But I can tell you here and now, nobody will outwork us. We will work as hard as we can every day of the week, every hour that we're awake, to make this a great place to play paddle.
Amazing. And I feel it. Do you know what? I know that people won't be able to see this, but there's just so many nice small touches that you've done, with just, when you walk in and, you see your names, and there's just so many personal touches that speak to you as a person and what you're trying to do here. And I'm glad you noticed that. I can see the family essence of it. I can see that, different parts of your family have kind of chimed in and maybe decorated one part, and you can feel it. So no, I think that's really good.
That's nice.
And on a more sort of, I suppose, jokey aspect, just to change things, who's the best player on the board?
Well, Paul would say he's better than me. Paul's left-handed.
Yep.
And he claims to have been the Lancashire badminton champion for under-16s. Now, both of us have played a fair bit of badminton, right?
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you I was better than him.
Yeah.
I've played a fair bit of tennis. I've played squash. Any sport I'll play.
Yeah.
We've played paddle together quite a bit.
Yeah.
We're both decent, but we would never claim to be anything other than rank amateurs compared to some of the players that we've seen around.
Yeah.
We enjoy playing with each other. We're very complementary. He's left, I'm right. And we're learning the game as we go. I think to have some of the best coaches in the world with us over the next few weeks, I can tell you we're going to get better.
Good. And just to wrap up, for people that want to become aspiring players or want their children to get involved or anything like that,
Yeah.
what would you leave them with? You know, what's that kind of advice or message to them to come along and play?
I think you've just got to get involved. There is no intimidation factor here. Come down, join a game, bring your friends, bring your family. We've had loads of families here. I mean, what people have been kind of surprised about is that they bring their kids and they can actually play a game. Whereas with other sports, because of the technical difficulties, it's hard. So give paddle a go. Honestly, you'll enjoy it, you'll love it. It doesn't cost a lot. You can have some real fun. It can be a way to engage with people you've not spent time with before. You can meet new people, you can join communities and become part of this movement. You know, it's the world's fastest growing sport. Why wouldn't you want to be involved?
That's right. And I think it'd be also helpful just for people that are listening, where can they find out more about Padel and your socials?
Yeah, look, go to any of the social platforms that we're on and have a look at us. But fundamentally, come to our website, www.soulpadel.co.uk. You can instantly book a court. You can learn about who we are and what we do. But come and talk to us. You know, there's nothing better than standing in front of someone and learning more about what we do and who we are. So I would invite anybody to come down to Stockport, anybody to come down to Glasgow next week. Come and talk to us. We'll be there. We've got some great club managers that we've recruited who really can't wait to meet people and get them on court. So, yeah, it's an open invite.
Lovely, I'll be there.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. No, thank you so much. Like talking about the sport, talking about kind of the opportunity and just educating people as to why Padel is becoming the fastest growing sport in the world, the UK.
Anytime.
Yeah, it's been great having you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cool. Cheers. Thank you so much. That was good.